Welcome to NTD News Today. I am Alice Tang. Here are our top stories. President Trump reflects on last year's assassination attempt against him in Butler, Pennsylvania, and tells us how that experience changed him. President Trump levies new tariffs on Mexico and the European Union. Why some say it could mean higher prices at home, plus the stock market's reaction. How will President Trump's new tariffs on Mexico and the EU impact U.S. relations with these allies? We spoke with a professor of finance at Stockton University. A town in Texas mourns a beloved high school coach lost in the July floods. Students remember the man who meant so much to them. And how we can use heat to optimize the body's virus-fighting ability. Vital Signs' Brendan Fallon shares insights from a critical care doctor.
This is NTD News Today, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
President Donald Trump narrowly escaped death 1 year ago on July 13th after an assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. Trump says his life was spared for a reason in a recent Fox News interview. Here's more.
Well, it was unforgettable. I didn't know exactly what was going on. I got whacked. There's no question about that. And fortunately got down quickly.
During the interview with his daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, President Trump reflected on the moment at the rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. He said that he was saved, and not just for his own sake. In his words, "I was saved to save our country." The remarks were echoed by his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, in an interview released last week.
I would say I think he believes that he was saved. I do. And he would never, even if he thought it before, I don't think he would have admitted it, and he will now. Every president says, "God bless America." Well, it's more profound with him now, and it's more personal. And I do think, I mean, you'd have to ask him, but I do think he recognizes that being saved that day was for a reason.
For a reason.
Looking ahead, the president expressed a hope for how history will remember him, not just as a good person.
I really would like to be known as the man that saved our country.
President Trump has announced a 30% tariff on goods imported from Mexico and the European Union. The new tariff rates will go into effect on August 1st. Trump posted the letters to the European Commission president and Mexican president on social media Saturday. He threatened the rates will go even higher if a country retaliates with tariffs of their own. The move comes after Trump announced increased tariffs against numerous countries, including Canada, Japan, and South Korea. President Trump is turning up the heat on trade. He's imposing new tariffs on imports from Canada and Brazil, warning more could be on the way. The move is raising concerns about whether it would mean for prices on everyday items. Here's more on that, plus the stock market's reaction to this week's tariff news.
On Thursday, he set a 35% tariff for imports from Canada, and he warned Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney that the levies would go up even higher if there was any retaliation. Trump also said other nations without deals could expect duties of 15 to 20%. He said the final figure was being decided now, and not every country would get a letter telling them their tariff. Trump said there would just be a blanket rate for most nations. This week's news on tariffs has had little impact on stocks, with the Nasdaq index posting a record closing high on Thursday. SimCorp Managing Director Melissa Brown says there's a feeling among investors that they know the worst.
Of course, we don't know if that's really true, but I think that's the general prevailing sentiment in the market, is that we've seen the worst. Yeah, it might hurt inflation a little bit. It might hurt the economy a little bit, but it's probably not going to have a major impact.
However, US consumers will be waiting to see what the trade turmoil means for prices. Orange juice and coffee will be among the closely watched products. That's after Trump hit Brazil with a 50% tariff a day earlier. The country accounts for more than half of the orange juice sold in the US and around a third of the coffee. meaning prices seem sure to rise. Domestic US production can't compensate. America is the world's largest drinker of coffee, but produces very little of it, and orange harvests have been hard hit by crop disease and hurricanes. Brazil has vowed to retaliate if the tariffs take effect as scheduled on August 1st, but continues to seek a diplomatic solution for now.
President Donald Trump has announced 30% tariffs on imports from the European Union and Mexico. He stated the new duties, which go into effect on August 1st, are aimed at correcting long-standing trade imbalances. He warned that both the EU and Mexico would face even higher tariffs if they retaliate by increasing their own trade barriers against the United States. Joining us today to discuss this topic is economist and public policy analyst Michael Butler. He's also a professor at finance at Stockton University. Good afternoon, Michael.
Good afternoon, Alice. My pleasure to be here.
So Trump just announced 30% tariffs on the EU and Mexico yesterday. What do you think drove him to make this move?
So he announced all this on April 2nd, and he said, look, I'll give everybody 90 days. Let's come up with agreements. And then we don't have to go through with the tariffs. We'll do whatever the agreements say. Some of these countries didn't quite take them seriously. Now, the European Union is a large problem. Why? There are over 20 countries in the European Union, and when you come up with these trade agreements, you come up with some number for tariffs, but there are always carve-outs, which means there are certain products that each country does not want a large tariff. Italy doesn't want a large tariff on their wine. France doesn't want a large tariff on cheese. So you have to try to work out an agreement, not just with the European Union, but considering what each of those countries wants as a carve-out. President Trump, he likes to get things done immediately. We have a problem. Let's deal with it. Let's fix it and move on. He's given them 90 days to work this out. They're dragging their heels. So whenever that happens, President Trump creates a sense of urgency. And the sense of urgency is, I'm going to raise the tariffs even higher if we don't come up with an agreement within the next 30 days. I expect some agreements to be made, and many of these tariffs will not go into effect, particularly with the European Union. Mexico and Canada are another issue. They too are dragging their feet. They also made a promise to guard the border so fentanyl doesn't get in, and they don't seem to be doing as well as they're supposed to. So President Trump has said, look, either fix this, let's come up with a deal, or I'm going to keep the tariffs on and I'm going to make them even higher.
Now, speaking about the carve-outs, how might this escalation impact U.S. relations with EU and Mexico, who are both close allies to U.S.?
Yeah, so we're close allies, mostly because of defense. We defend North America, Canada, and Mexico. We're part of NATO, and most of the European Union countries are in NATO. So although this is an economic situation that has to be resolved, I don't think this is going to have any long-term negative impacts on the relationship. What President Trump really wants to do is he wants to open foreign markets to U.S. manufacturers. Forever, the U.S., for decades, we charge a 2.5% tariff or a little bit more on most things coming from almost all countries. They charge 20, 30, 40, 50, 100% tariffs. As a result, we can't sell our products in their countries. Now, Trump says he wants the foreign markets opened up to U.S. manufacturers. And unless they agree to do that, he's going to put very high tariffs on their products. And he's very serious about this. So once these other countries agree to stop protecting their industries, Canada, for instance, says, well, I want to keep a high tariff on cheese and dairy products to protect our farmers. Well, if you take that attitude, then you're stopping American dairy farmers from selling their products. And Trump says you can't keep doing that. So open the markets to U.S. manufacturers, and Trump will agree to a much lower tariff on your products coming into the U.S.
Awesome. So on July 10th, Trump spoke to NBC's Meet the Press, and he said he will implement tariffs of 15 to 20% on most trade partners, and that's up from the 10% baseline originally set on April 2nd. Does this higher blanket tariff rate change your view on how these tariffs will impact the U.S. economy?
I don't think they'll impact them significantly, and I'm not sure you're going to end up with the 15, 20%. His original goal, and he may have modified it, but his original goal was similar to the deal signed with England, 10% tariff on almost all products they send to us, and 10% on what we send to them, and let us open up their markets. There are some carve-outs. Now, because other countries are going so slowly with this, Trump says, look, I'm not going to stay with 10% unless you come up with a deal. I'm going to start raising it up to 15, 20%. That creates the sense of urgency. Those other countries should come to the bargaining table and come up with something that everybody can live with, and these high tariffs don't have to go into place. The American public is a little bit frustrated, and I am too, because the Trump administration has been saying for 2, 3, 4 weeks now, we're very close to a deal with Japan. We're very close to a deal with India. We're very close to a deal with South Korea. Yet no deal has been made. My sources tell me it's because the other countries want to protect too many of their industries and continue to close off markets to the U.S. Whether the tariff is 10, 15, 20%, it won't have a significant impact on inflation in the U.S., but it will encourage those countries to start to negotiate with us to open up their markets. Remember, some of these tariffs have been in effect for months now. When Trump came into office, the inflation rate was 2.9%. It's down to 2.3%, and some of these tariffs have also gone into effect. On the positive side, these tariffs are raising revenue for the U.S. We have a huge deficit and debt problem. Last month, the federal government actually had a surplus because Trump has been cutting government spending, although everybody's fighting him at every step of the way. He's trying to cut government spending, and he is somewhat successful. Plus, the tariffs have brought in more tax revenue, and instead of having a deficit for the month, we had a surplus for the month. So this tariff policy overall will have a positive impact on the U.S. economy and for U.S. producers to be able to sell their products overseas. That will add much growth to GDP and provide more opportunities for business and also for workers.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael, for joining us and shedding light on Trump's latest move. We truly appreciate your time and insights.
Thank you, Alice. My pleasure.
Coming up, a Texas town mourns a beloved high school coach lost in the July 4th floods. Students remember the man who meant so much to them. A disaster can hit without warning, but can you get prepared financially in case it does? After the commercial break, we'll show you some simple steps experts say you can take right now here on NTD News Today.
Whispered across generations, a hidden secret unveils the essence of longevity and vitality, a timeless legend regarding energy and wonder. Rooted in ancient health wisdom, we proudly introduce Pure Tang Black Ginseng, a 100% natural organic energy drink made from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng. It takes 2,260 days and nights from seed to growth, undergoing a meticulous 9-step process of steaming and drying. Black ginseng reaches its full potency, enriched with ginsenoside RG3 and enhanced absorption efficiency. No sugar, no caffeine, no artificial ingredients. Experience the pure natural power of Pure Tang Black Ginseng. Nourish your body, strengthen your immunity, and boost your energy. To order Pure Tang Black Ginseng, please visit puretang.com.
Amazing grace, how saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
They're just young people, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable. Abused youth often feel safer on the street. Now, more than ever, that's the most dangerous place of all. Covenant House is helping young adults facing homelessness. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming, and no young person is ever turned away. Please call or go online now with your gift of $19 a month to help a young person. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Your gift will show them they're loved. Homeless young people are afraid and alone with nowhere else to turn.
You want to know that there's somewhere you can go that's safe. So the Covenant House did that for us.
Please call now with your gift of $19 a month. We'll send you this blanket as a reminder of the comfort your gift provides a young person tonight. Please don't wait. Your gift is the lifeline a young person needs now. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org. Thank you for saving precious lives.
A town in Texas is mourning the loss of a beloved high school coach, Reese Zunker. He's one of more than 100 lives lost in the devastating July 4th flood. His former students say he was more than just a coach. He was family. As search efforts continue, questions are growing over whether earlier warnings could have saved more lives.
Students from Tivy High School in Kerrville, Texas, kicked around a soccer ball on Wednesday as a crowd gathered to remember popular soccer coach Reese Zunker, who died in the flash flooding on July 4th.
I have call logs where I'm calling him. I'm like, answer the...
27-year-old Armando Vazquez said the death of his former soccer coach really hit home.
He was a father figure, which is why it hurt more than just anything. For anything, he was more of a father figure than a lot of times my dad would have been.
Zunker died when flash floods, triggered by torrential rain, swept through parts of central Texas. He was among some 120 people killed across the region, according to officials. His wife, Paula, a former teacher at the high school, was also among the victims. Their 2 children were missing as of Sunday, according to the school district.
We pray to the Lord.
Lord, hear our prayer.
Wednesday's prayer service for Zunker brought scores of people, including student Hadley Dinkla.
I don't think Kerrville will be the same for a long time. I think I'm always going to think of 4th of July as a memorial instead of Independence Day, but I know it'll take a long time, but I think God gives his hardest battles to his strongest soldiers, and I think Central Texas has some of the strongest people I've ever met. So I know that Kerrville is going to come back 10 times better than ever.
A dozen states have dispatched search teams to Kerr County, where the vast majority of the victims perished. And officials say about 160 people are still unaccounted for. Search teams could be seen Thursday near the Guadalupe River, which on July 4th went from about a foot to 34 feet high in a matter of hours. Authorities in Kerr County have faced questions about whether more could have been done in the early hours of July 4th to alert residents about the rising floodwaters and get some of them to higher ground. The county declined to install an early warning system years ago after failing to secure state grant money to cover the cost.
Natural disasters can strike fast, but getting your finances in order doesn't have to wait. Experts say a few simple steps now can save you from major stress later. Take a look.
Natural disasters can strike quickly, but experts say preparing a checklist of financial safeguards can happen right now.
Don't look at it as something that you create if something happens. create it so that way you know when something happens, you're prepared.
Rulon Washington of Wells Fargo Home Mortgage has navigated multiple hurricane seasons in Florida. He says households can protectively map out plans for worst-case scenarios.
It's okay to call your mortgage company. It's okay to call your insurance company and inquire. Don't be afraid because they are your financial partner.
Kate Bolger of consumer credit counseling nonprofit Money Management International says households should regularly review insurance coverage for regionally specific things like floods and wildfires.
The last thing you want is to have a disaster happen and then get surprised when your coverage isn't what you thought it was.
After a disaster, Bolger says communication with lenders and creditors remains key.
Calling your creditors right away, letting them know you've been in a disaster, that lets them give you some grace, give you some flexibility in payments so that you can kind of get through that critical first period.
And even in a disaster's chaotic aftermath, Washington says to remain vigilant against bad actors.
The awareness and being vigilant around any scams or scammers looking to take advantage of your situation should be something to add to that preparation as you're guiding your family through a natural disaster.
The U.S. Supreme Court has cleared the way for the Trump administration's mass federal layoffs. NTD brings in a panel of experts to break down what this could mean legally and how it might affect everyday Americans.
Just looking here at what the lower court had said, which was then overturned by the Supreme Court, they had said that the president is basically attempting to fundamentally restructure the federal government with these proposed layoffs. Now that he has the green light, starting with you, Jim, what do you see as the biggest, broadest impact here?
Well, the biggest impact is that the agencies are now going to be able to formulate and execute plans to have the layoffs. I should point out very clearly that the Supreme Court did not approve any of the particular plans. It simply approved of Trump's order to the agencies to have plans to do the reductions in forces consistent with the law. And that's key. Consistent with applicable law is in the executive order, and there's nothing in the executive order itself that was unlawful or unconstitutional. And that's what the court, in its 8-1 decision, made clear yesterday.
And I do want to dig into that further with you, Jim. But first off, Mike, based on the lower court's description that now the federal government basically may be completely restructured, do you see the potential for a widespread impact here?
Well, first off, good to see everybody, and happy Wednesday, I believe it is. Now that the Supreme Court has kind of weighed in on this, Jim is right about this, and this also applies, if you remember, Steph, with the injunction and what just happened in the Trump versus Casa case as well, where like lower courts can't decide, or at least the Supreme Court has kind of weighed in on that. They haven't weighed in on the merits of the other part of that case, but what I see from this potentially at a 30,000-foot overview is, now, as to Jim's point, now these agencies are actually going to look at the bottom line and see where they can make cuts. My hope is that they don't make cuts that impact everyday Americans in terms of receiving services, and there's just elimination of redundancies with respect to departments, as opposed to what DOJ was doing, which was actually making cuts and then potentially rehiring folks back, maybe a policy person that had, the knowledge that wasn't transferred to somebody else within the department, and then, obviously the subsequent fallout from that. So my hope is that now these agencies start to actually look at where they can actually cut, eliminate redundancies of folks where the knowledge transfer is not lost and there's no impact of loss of services to consumers, because Social Security, different benefit programs that everyday Americans use are part of the federal government. We're going to see an interruption in services if there are massive layoffs across all these agencies. That's not done, under the careful, watchful eye.
And back on the legal issue, Justice Sonia Sotomayor had also noted that the Supreme Court's decision leaves the district court free to consider whether reductions in force are done in a legal manner. And so that may also play out in the courts. But Jim, talk to us about carrying out mass federal layoffs. What needs to happen for this to be legal?
Well, the agencies have to go through rulemaking processes in order to have major changes in the way they operate. The agencies and the administration simply cannot go against what Congress has said it must do, but Congress often leaves a lot of ambiguity of how the agencies are supposed to carry out the particular laws regarding health, safety, and commerce and all these other things that the federal agencies do. So the agencies are going to have to carefully look at what power they have, what authority Congress has given them, and proceed accordingly. So they're going to have to come up with careful plans. I think what Mike said is correct. We have to know exactly what the details of these programs are, and then it's going to go back to the courts, no doubt. Some of these plans are going to go back to the courts. But in the meantime, the agencies have to carefully go through and see what the limits of their legal authority are and follow those limits.
Okay. And on the social impacts side of things, what kind of response, Mike, do you expect here in terms of the pushback that we've seen so far and how it might impact people?
Well, clearly there's going to be pushback. When anybody has some sort of benefits, they're going to push back and saying we're entitled to them, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it's perhaps a little overbroad or overwrought to put it in Justice Jackson's terms, where she's saying that where one person or president might call bureaucratic bloat is a farmer's prospect for a healthy crop, a coal miner's chance to breathe air free from black lung, or a preschooler's opportunity to learn in a safe environment. That seems to be putting the cart before the horse, rather premature. And I don't think that we're going to see a wholesale abrogation of health and safety on part of the federal agencies. They're going to look at where we can cut the fat really to the bone and proceed accordingly.
All right. And Mike, your take.
Yeah, no, I mean, Jim's right. I mean, he's the lawyer. I mean, he knows the legal lens of this. I mean, I think, just speaking to some House Democrats, and I was talking to Congressman Seth Moulton about this because his team had posted out something about how this will actually impact his constituents up in his district up in Massachusetts with respect to, like I said before, the interruption of services, right? And I think there's always a delicate balance in between the talking points of a Democrat or a Republican when something comes down from the Supreme Court versus what the actual day-to-day will look like, right? And so for the day-to-day right now, and back to Jim's point, right, the court hasn't kind of weighed in on when these folks go back with their line item budget and who they're actually going to cut. There still may be challenges to that overall. What they have done is just said that the president's EO can continue. So I think right now there's still like this wait and see approach from people that work for these agencies to find out, are they going to be part of these cuts? Are they going to be part of these layoffs? And the hope is that we don't see a true interruption of services, especially ones that everyday Americans rely on, like I mentioned before. And I think that's going to be something that we're going to find out over the coming weeks. But I also think it hasn't dominated the news cycle because we have, unfortunately, a host of other issues that are happening out nationally with the floods in Texas, the war in Ukraine and Gaza and stuff like that. This has kind of fallen by the wayside so far. And I think it'll start to pick up once the actual cuts are implemented by these agencies.
And indeed, hopefully, if the agencies really do lay out those plans before it's implemented, perhaps that can ameliorate any potential losses that may be unneeded. Jim, the lower court had ruled that Trump needed Congress's permission to control the internal personnel decisions of the executive branch. How do you see the Supreme Court's take on this issue?
Well, I think the Supreme Court was skeptical of the way the district court framed the case. It's not really a question about the president needing the authority from Congress. The president has to look at what authority is already given to him in these statutes, in the various laws, and, as I said earlier, proceed accordingly. So, again, I think the district court was getting way in front of its skis in this case by saying that the president can't do anything without authority from Congress. Well, Congress has already given the president all kinds of authority in the various laws and statutes, and you just have to go through these. And Congress doesn't pass, one sentence laws. It passes laws that are just pages and pages and massive volumes. And the agencies and the lawyers for the agencies will go through those with a fine-tooth comb and see where they can cut and where they can't cut. And if they go too far, if they cut where they don't really have authority to cut, if they're making these massive structural changes that the district court was worried about without congressional authority, you can bet there's going to be legal pushback, and the administration will likely be stopped or at least slowed down in that process. If the administration doesn't like it, administration itself can go to Congress and try to get more authority to do what it needs to do. So this is going to be a continuing saga. There is not going to be an immediate, sudden change in the way the federal government operates. It's like a huge ocean liner. And to change course, it takes a long time to change the course of that ocean liner.
Mike, your comment on that, and also whether this ruling sets a precedent for future administrations to make sweeping changes to the government.
Yeah, well, first of all, I love the ocean liner analogy because it is very hard to turn that ship, right? But, here's the thing, Steph. Like, whenever a new administration comes in, I think people just don't pay attention to this. And a new administration is trying to balance the budget. They're trying to do things on the global stage and implement their policies and their positions that they campaigned on. And then what they can actually, to Jim's point, get congressional approval, right? Because there's 3 branches of government still here in the United States as of this moment. So, and so when I say that, and I say that a little bit in jest, but like, that's the way this works, right? So I think future administrations will potentially try some things in terms of reduction of the federal workforce or increasing of the federal workforce, as long as, in the EO stated this, to Jim's earlier point, it's in compliance with the law. It's in compliance with laws that we already have on the book. And I think for people out there that want to learn a little bit more about like how this will actually affect you and stuff like that, I highly encourage people, make sure you're reaching out. The services that you depend on, federal government employees, there's 3 million or so here in the U.S. There's 3.7 that are not technically contract workers for the federal government. Like, there's millions of people that work for the federal government. Don't think solely about those folks. Also think about the departments that they work at and what you rely on for those services. Contact those folks. Hey, find out a little bit more about, is this going to be interrupted? How's this going to be impacted? What can I do? How can I get ahead of certain things? Make sure you stay informed as a citizen. It's your obligation to do that.
Coming up, how we can use heat to optimize the body's virus-fighting ability. Vital Signs' Brendan Fallon shares insight from a critical care doctor who's also a professor of medicine.
That first time seeing my son, I feel like my life did a 180. I was already trying to change my perspective of life and really just be a father figure that I never had. Being present is the most important part. I'm still growing every day, becoming a better version of myself, to be the better mirror for my son. I mean, he's just grown. He's becoming his own person. Man, at first I saw him dance, bro, he brings the vibes, you know what I'm saying? He brings the party no matter what. He really a definition of like why he loves somebody. And I love him to the death of me.
I debate all day. It's what I do. But there are some things that are undebatable, like your mental health, my own mental health. I was in a dark place when my brother passed away in a car accident. I've never been more devastated than the day I lost my mom. I was depressed, miserable, in ways I never imagined. I reached out, and my sisters came. My pastor, my therapist. They helped me get through it. I found that the more I spoke up, the healthier my mind became. The chaos that was in me began to subside. I was more focused, clear. When you love your mind, you can go so much further. That's not up for debate. Find mental health resources at loveyourmindtoday.org.
Where did the time go? Somehow I lost all those years. Where did the time go? I don't know how I got here. Or how did I get here?
Done the
hard part. You quit smoking. Now do the easy part and get scanned for lung cancer. If you smoked, you may still be at risk, but early detection could save your life. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Welcome back to NTD. I'm joined in studio by NTD Health correspondent and host of Vital Signs, Brendan Fallon. Vital Signs zooms in on the important aspects of health that influence our lives. Brendan, it's nice to see you.
Great to see you, Alice. Always a pleasure.
So, what do you have for us today?
Today, Alice, I want to talk about virus defense, a kind of virus shield that our body has. Because we never know what big virus could be around the corner, and flu season's always here before you know it. So I spoke to a doctor. He's a professor of medicine. He's also a quadruple qualified, board qualified surgeon, qualified in critical care medicine and internal medicine included in that. And he's really a master of how to use natural methods to defend against viruses. And he was using these things during COVID. And he talked to me about this agent of the body's immune system called interferon, this protein, and how we can use this when we feel like a fever or when we feel like a virus is coming on to counter that virus. So that's the first thing that he talks about here.
Know that elevating the body's temperature puts into motion a whole host of defenses in the innate and the adaptive, but particularly in the innate immune system. The central figure in the innate immune system is interferon. Interferon is your friend. It literally interferes with viral infections, and it's very broad. In other words, it's not dependent at all on variants. So if we're talking about COVID, SARS-CoV-2, the fact that we had different variants would not in any way be a problem for interferon, because interferon is able to recognize in general things that are self and things that are non-self. And every single one of those variants that we had of SARS-CoV-2 would have been recognized by interferon. Now, interferon is boosted, it is increased when you have a fever. And one of the most interesting things that I found, Brandon, is this. This is a general rule that you can take to the bank every single time. There are multiple viruses that infect the human race. Multiple viruses. Almost every single one of them that is pathogenic, that actually gets a foothold, has within its genome some factor which is able to neutralize an immune factor of the human body. The most common one that we see is the neutralization of interferon. We knew that about SARS very early on. That was from 2002. We estimated that SARS-CoV-2 probably had that. We confirmed it with data that showed that the MAC1 gene is actually there specifically to downregulate the body's ability to use interferon. When we do gene deletion of MAC1, SARS-CoV-2 becomes an impotent virus. So there are factors on all of these viruses. I was just studying about Marburg, which is now in the news in terms of what's going on there now in Rwanda and the outbreak there. Guess what? Marburg virus also specifically targets downregulation of the body's ability to use interferon. It's kind of like if you're going to rob a bank. You're not going to be able to rob a bank unless you're able to deal with security and open the safe. And that's what the virus has to deal with. When it's going to attack the human body, it has to have a plan how to get around interferon.
Interesting. So it's similar to an Amber Alert where cells alert each other on what's going on and what kind of danger is coming. That's like a small society within our body. I love that.
Truly, I think we see that theme in many aspects of the body, like the microbiome as well, for example.
Within our guts?
Yeah, well, not just within the gut. There's microbiomes in different parts of the body, right from the start of the intestinal tract all the way to the end. And actually other places as well, like the bladder, they've recently discovered. It really is amazing the way these different things communicate with one another, and that's what interferon is. It's like a messaging. It sends out these messenger signals, and it tells that host cell to stop replicating the virus. So it's quite remarkable how this works.
Interesting.
And this isn't new. It's not a new discovery. It's actually, I think it's something that was practiced and known. You go back to the Spanish flu in the 1900s, they were using heat. They were raising the body's temperature and finding that effective in treating the Spanish flu. People would go to these sanitariums, they'd use hydrotherapy to heat up the body, and they were getting strong results. It was actually, they had 1/6 of the deaths in these Adventist sanitariums where they're using heat compared to the army sanitariums where they weren't. They had 1/6 the amount of deaths from the Spanish flu.
So I guess that's going to take us to our next video.
There's a paper that was published in 2022, which I'm going through right now and reviewing. They actually state and come out and say that we've known for a long time that children are able to mount high fevers very easily, but as we get older, we're not able to do that. They are proposing that in and of itself may be the reason why we saw so much mortality at the older end of the population and not the younger end of the population. So what is this all to say? You're asking me about saunas. I can expand it even more. I would say that anything that can even artificially increase the body temperature is going to shut down viral replication, maybe not 100%, but certainly reduce it significantly. It's going to boost interferon. There's a number of papers that show that when you elevate the temperature, the ambient temperature of the activated lymphocytes, particularly up to 39 degrees Celsius, that you're going to get a 10-fold increase boost in the production of interferon. So when you look back historically about what people did before we had medications, specifically to the 1918-1919 pandemic, there were people that were taking people outside into the fresh air and the sunlight, yes, but also particularly there was a group of Adventist sanitariums in the Northeast, which I've studied, and they were using something called hydrotherapy. So this is a way of using water, which has a high amount of heat in it. It takes a lot of heat to raise the temperature of water. But then similarly, when you put warm water or hot water onto someone without burning them, it can transfer a lot of heat and energy to that body to heat it up. And so by using sauna, by using hydrotherapy with wet towels, by using hot tubs, elevating the temperature of the body went a long way in terms of preventing the early pneumonia. So this is early treatment in the 1918, okay? They showed that they had 1/6 of the mortality rate that the Army hospitals did who were using aspirin. So what does aspirin do? Aspirin does exactly the opposite of what you want. It takes away the fever. It breaks the fever. And so there's this dichotomy. What do you do when you see a fever in a patient? Do you try to break it, bring it down, or do you elevate it? And I think that's really at the core of your question about sauna and things of that nature.
Seems to be good to go into a sauna or jacuzzi every once in a while. So how often should we take a hot tub bath or go into a jacuzzi or a sauna?
I think like one of the things that Dr. Schwelt talks about is how in certain Nordic countries they saw a relatively better response to COVID, like lower infections, lower hospitalizations, lower mortalities. And he attributes that maybe in part to their use of things like sauna in those countries. And I think it's generally a healthy practice. For one, for its detox potential, but also just in terms of if you have a fever coming on in the moment in that situation, you don't necessarily have to go to a sauna. You don't have to fork out that money. You don't have to go to a sanitarium. You can do this by yourself at home, and that's what Dr. Schwelt talks about in an earlier interview that we'll share the link to, and how he does this with his family. If they feel something coming on, he'll go through this process with the hot towels, the hot water, and gets good results from that.
So a hot bath sounds pretty good.
It's like luxury.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Brendan, for being here. So to see the full Vital Signs interview with Dr. Schwelt, just go to your browser and enter ept.ms/virus-shield. Coming up, new details in the Air India crash investigation suggest a technical issue may have caused a deadly engine failure rather than pilot error. We'll zoom in on that investigation, on what the investigators found. Summer heat won't stop your body from needing exercise, but staying safe means knowing the best times and ways to work out. We have tips from a Mayo Clinic expert about the break.
Big things are happening at Mathis Home. Their everyday low prices are now even better. Shop Price Drop Alerts and save up to 25% off store-wide. Shop the latest looks in dining rooms, all at big savings. This set is a great deal, perfect for family get-togethers. You get the table and 4 side chairs for just $7.99 in your choice of finishes. They have over 100 dining sets in stock with fast and free delivery. Look for Price Drop Alert tags and save now at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
Say goodbye to harsh, bitter coffee and hello to a delicious, smooth brew. With specialty quality beans, expertly roasted in-house, you'll taste the difference with every sip. Fermented with a blend of 50 enzymes, Days Coffee delivers a rich brew like no other. Made with the highest grade specialty beans available, you're sure to taste the difference. Elevate your morning with Days Enzyme Fermented Coffee.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-624-6556 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-624-6556. 1-800-624-6556. Call now.
There's always a searching process for beauty. You know it when you see it.
Adopting you was the best decision in our life. And I'm so proud to call you my son.
Last month's Air India crash reports point to a potential technical issue rather than pilot error. Investigators say a faulty chip may have caused the engines to lose fuel shortly after takeoff, leading to the tragic crash that killed 260 people. Let's take a closer look.
A preliminary report into last month's fatal Air India crash depicted confusion in the cockpit after the plane's engine fuel cutoff switches flipped almost simultaneously and starved the engines of fuel. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner began to lose thrust and sink shortly after takeoff. The report from Indian accident investigators did not say how the switches could have flipped to the cutoff position during the flight.
From the findings,
Former pilot and senior lecturer at Buckinghamshire New University, Marco Chan, says he believes it was a chip malfunction rather than human error that led to the crash. He points to a previously issued service bulletin from the engine manufacturer advising maintenance of a flawed chip to prevent signal loss.
I believe the FAA has, or together with GE General Electric, the engine manufacturer, has issued a service bulletin. I believe it was about 11,000 cycles. They will have to replace the chip. And if it is not replaced or maintenance isn't done correctly, it could lead to intermittent loss of signal. Once you have a loss of signal, the fuel isn't commanded, i.e. in the cutoff position, then there's no fuel going to the engine.
Chan says it would be a challenge for pilots to accidentally move the switches into the cutoff position.
You have to physically sort of not pull the pin, but if you have to pull the toggle out, then it can move to a different position. So you do have to do it on purpose, not accidentally knocking it to the wrong position. Very rarely that can happen, or is close to zero.
At the crash site, both fuel switches were found in the run position, and there had been indications of both engines relighting before the low-altitude crash, the report showed. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner was bound for London from India's Ahmedabad. The crash killed 260 people, making it the world's deadliest aviation accident in a decade.
Your body doesn't take a break from needing exercise, even in the summer heat. But a family physician at Mayo Clinic says staying active safely means being smart about when and how you work out, especially with high temperatures and humidity.
Your body's need for exercise doesn't take a summer break.
I tell my patients, keep active, make sure you're exercising, doing your cardio 30 minutes a day, with cardio aerobic activity, putting in some weight resistance training on top of that during the week.
Dr. Jesse Bracamonte with Mayo Clinic says that while staying active year-round is important, exercising in the heat can put you in harm's way if you're not careful. He says you have to be mindful of the heat, humidity, and dryness.
Just be intentional and be careful out in the summer months, particularly if you're not used to these summer months or the high humidity or the heat waves that come along.
If your exercise routine takes you outdoors, Bracamonte says to go out when the sun's not as strong, early in the morning or in the evening when it's cooler. And hydration is key. Before exercise, he recommends drinking at least 20 to 30 ounces of water to get the body started in hydration. And during exercise, rehydrating every 15 to 20 minutes to keep the body from depleting itself. And after being active, continue that hydration.
You want your urine to look like clear lemonade. That's a sign of hydration rather than dark apple juice color.
Bracamonte says to also wear appropriate clothing. He recommends loose, light material. And if you do exercise outdoors, find a place that has shade if possible.
Staying cool is really key.
Good 3.
More than a quarter of Americans have a side hustle or a secondary income, according to Bankrate. NTD spoke with Ted Rossman, Bankrate's senior industry analyst, for his insight. Let's tune in.
Ted, side hustling or having more than a single income stream is down considerably year over year, but more than a quarter of Americans are still needing to supplement their income. So what do you make of this trend?
I would attribute the drop to the fact that wage growth has outpaced inflation for the past 3 years. I know things still feel expensive, but this has given people a chance to catch up. The job market's been good. The unemployment rate's just 4.1%. A few years ago, a lot more people were side hustling out of necessity just to make ends meet. When people are side hustling today, it's more likely by choice. The top use of the money now is discretionary spending. So that was a flip from a few years ago when it was necessary spending.
Yeah, discretionary spending obviously better than making ends meet. And, I want to get your sense for the key drivers in employment, obviously technology playing a big role, and the cost of living, which you just mentioned with inflation. How is that contributing to this so-called gig economy?
Technology does play a big role in side hustling. That's one of the reasons why I believe that this trend will be back on the rise in the years to come. Side hustling is not dead by any means. Young adults are really gravitating to this. Gen Zers and millennials are the most likely to have side hustles. Some of this is because technology's made it easier than ever to do something online or through an app, but also the workforce has changed. People aren't working 50 years for the same employer and leaving with a gold watch and a pension at the end. A lot of people, especially young adults, are trying out different things and cobbling together multiple revenue streams.
Yeah, and you mentioned generations and ages. So how does that play into side hustling? And go a little bit deeper on what you guys uncovered with this latest report.
About a third of Gen Zers and millennials have side hustles. That compares with about 1 in 4 Gen Xers and boomers. Side hustling can be a great thing to drum up some extra money for discretionary spending, for breathing room in the household budget, for debt payoff, for savings. It can also be a way to explore a passion project. I know in my 20s, I wrote part-time for a fantasy sports website, and it was fun. I mean, I like sports. I made some extra money. I thought maybe if I wanted to go down that career path, it was a line on my resume. I would urge people to follow their passion when it comes to side hustling. There are so many different things you can do, whether it's childcare, pet sitting, graphic design, photography. People are very creative about the side hustles they're doing. There's no one thing that stands out. It's very spread out.
Yeah, that's very encouraging. Can you give a couple of other reasons that people might explore a side hustle, or why they should explore a side hustle?
Well, think of credit card debt, for instance. The average credit card debt load is around $6,500. I mean, you could side hustle for a few months and make big progress towards that. You could side hustle to make more money for savings and investments. You could try out a business idea. A lot of people side hustle because they like something that's different from their day-to-day job. And maybe it catches on. Maybe it becomes your next big thing, and you build skills and experience and contacts.
Yeah, I love the way that you paint this picture of the ability to explore maybe a business idea, but you don't have the resources to make that your full-time, vocation, and also just doing something that you like and you're able to make a few extra bucks either towards debt or toward discretionary income. Are there any examples that you've seen of, encouraging side hustle examples that might be interesting to our audience?
I feel like Silicon Valley is filled with companies that started as a side hustle or started out of somebody's garage. I mean, there's definitely an entrepreneurial culture that's true in America, but it's also especially true among young adults. And there are a lot of people in their 20s and 30s proving things out. But you also don't need to be the next Google or YouTube or someone like that to be successful. I mean, you could do this on a much smaller scale. You could experiment with photography or graphic design or pet sitting, dog walking. There's a lot of creative things you can do to make some extra money. Walk before you run, though. Before you buy a whole bunch of supplies and equipment, prove out that this business idea can work before you invest a lot of money into it.
Very encouraging trend. Appreciate all these examples. Ted Rossman with Bankrate. Take care.
Thank you.
Coming up, a Ukrainian psychologist and TV personality shares her journey of fleeing war and seeking peace amid deep emotional scars. Stay with us and we'll bring you more news right after this break.
I trod on my glasses yesterday and I had to pay up front for a new pair that I can't even pick up for another 10 days. So I looked for another way. And I found Select Specs. I ordered online. My new glasses just arrived this morning, and I can pay over the next few weeks. This is the way to buy glasses.
See now, pay later with Select Specs. Next day delivery and deferred payment options. Only at selectspecs.com.
If joint pain from aging is slowing you down, Omega XL can help you get back in the saddle, just like it did for John Walsh.
Today I'm here at my ranch exercising some of my polo ponies. Got to be really fit to ride these horses. So as you get older, it gets tougher. I was starting to suffer some of that business, and then I ran into somebody who said, look, you should try Omega XL, and look what it's done. I feel better than I felt in the last 30 years.
I'm Reve Walsh. I'm John Walsh's wife. I ride fox hunters, and sometimes I'm in the saddle for 3-5 hours at a time. A lot of work out here.
I wouldn't have been able to do this. Muck a stall, throw hay, do all the things that needs to be done on a ranch a couple years ago. But Omega XL gave me the ability to get back in the saddle. It works great.
Once you try it, you don't want to be without it. It makes a huge difference.
It does. Take it every single day, and there's a benefit. It's made you a lot nicer to me.
If you've been living with pain, it's time to get this special offer, the Omega XL, the joint health supplement that millions have trusted for more than 20 years. Omega XL, it's sourced from the green-lipped mussel, exclusively found in the pristine waters of New Zealand, some of the cleanest waters on Earth. Omega XL, it's natural, drug-free, and it's backed by more than 40 years of clinical research that show it really works. Try Omega XL today. Pick up your phone and call the number at the bottom of your screen right now for a special offer. Buy one, get two free. 2 bottles of Omega XL plus Vitamin XL D3, a value of more than $100. But call today and you pay only $39.95. That's a savings of more than 60%. Plus, it's backed by our 60-day money-back guarantee.
Try it. You got nothing to lose.
Call or go online right now to get this special offer. 2 bottles of Omega XL plus Vitamin XL D3 for only $39.95. Call now.
Kids love it. Parents trust it. Obviously. Explore GJW Plus Kids Series and Ganjian Campus courses led by expert educators. This is spectacular. Children will learn values like respect, responsibility, and knowledge in language, science, and more. Wow. All while having fun. Perfect. Subscribe today at GJW Plus Kids, where learning meets fun.
Welcome to NTD News Today. I'm Alice Tang. Here are our top stories. President Trump reflects on last year's assassination attempt against him in Butler, Pennsylvania, and tells us how the experience changed him. President Trump levies new tariffs on Mexico and the European Union. Why some say it could mean higher prices at home, plus the stock market's reaction. A town in Texas is mourning more than 100 lives lost in the last week's devastating floods. Plus, stories of survival emerge and questions grow about whether more could have been done to prevent the tragedy. A Ukrainian psychologist and TV personality share her journey of fleeing war and seeking peace amid deep emotional scars. Matcha, a drink made from powdered tea, is growing in popularity worldwide. How is this impacting the matcha supply chain? We speak with the owner of a tea house in New York.
This is NTD News Today, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
President Donald Trump narrowly escaped death 1 year ago on July 13th after an assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. Trump says his life was spared for a reason in a recent Fox News interview. Here's more.
Well, it was unforgettable. I didn't know exactly what was going on. I got whacked. There's no question about that. And fortunately got down quickly.
During the interview with his daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, President Trump reflected on the moment at the rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. He said that he was saved, and not just for his own sake. In his words, "I was saved to save our country." The remarks were echoed by his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, in an interview released last week.
I would say I think he believes that he was saved. I do. And he would never, even if he thought it before, I don't think he would have admitted it, and he will now. Every president says, God bless America. Well, it's more profound with him now, and it's more personal. And I do think, I mean, you'd have to ask him, but I do think he recognizes that being saved that day was for a reason.
Looking ahead, the president expressed a hope for how history will remember him, not just as a good person.
I really would like to be known as the man that saved our country.
President Trump has announced a 30% tariff on goods imported from Mexico and the European Union. The new tariff rates will go into effect on August 1st. Trump posted the letters to the European Commission president and Mexican president on social media Saturday. He threatened the rates will go even higher if a country retaliates with tariffs of their own. The move comes after Trump announced increased tariffs against numerous countries, including Canada, Japan, and South Korea. From new tariff and moves to protect U.S. farmland and renewed arms deliveries to Ukraine, it was another busy week at the White House. NTD's Daniel Monahan has your week in review.
President Trump this week sent letters to multiple countries announcing new tariffs after a 90-day negotiation window closed.
I think we'll have most countries done by July 9th, yeah. Either a letter or a deal.
Tariffs go into effect August 1st, but the president is setting the rates and the deals right now.
At a cabinet meeting, Trump also announced he was moving to protect the U.S. copper industry.
I believe the tariff on copper, we're going to make it 50%.
50%.
The administration also responded to violence at home. 10 people were charged with attempted murder after a recent attack on ICE officers in Alvarado, Texas.
It was a planned ambush with the intent to kill ICE corrections officers. Make no mistake, this was not a so-called peaceful protest.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited Washington, where he nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize and praised joint U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran.
The letter I sent to the Nobel Prize Committee, it's nominating you for the Peace Prize, which is well-deserved. Frankly, it was like the roar of two lions, and it was heard around the world.
The two also shared a private dinner at the White House. Meanwhile, Trump announced renewed arms shipments to Ukraine.
We're going to send some more weapons. We have to. They have to be able to defend themselves. They're getting hit very hard now.
And called out Russian President Putin.
We're not happy with Putin. I'm not happy with Putin. I can tell you that much right now, because he's killing a lot of people. And a lot of them are his soldiers. His soldiers and their soldiers, mostly.
Marco Rubio was at an ASEAN summit in Malaysia, where he met with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov.
I echoed what the president said, both disappointment and frustration at the lack of progress.
EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin announced he tasked the agency with compiling everything the government knows about contrails and geoengineering to ease people's concerns and improve transparency.
The enthusiasm for experiments that would pump pollutants into the high atmosphere has set off alarm bells here at the Trump EPA.
Father, we're humbled by your grace.
Housing Secretary Scott Turner led the president, vice president, and entire cabinet in a prayer for the people of Texas who fell victim to catastrophic flooding.
And Lord God, we pray that as we work together as a cabinet, as a president, vice president in this administration, Father God, that you would give us all the tools that we need.
Democrats continue to criticize Trump's recently passed spending bill.
The big, not-so-beautiful bill cuts programs that encourage clean energy like wind and solar and batteries for energy storage.
This has been the deepest cut to Medicaid ever, and unfortunately, Americans' health care will pay the price.
Republicans counter they are adding work requirements for able-bodied adults and rooting out abuse of Medicaid. And the Department of Agriculture announced that Chinese nationals and other foreign adversaries will be banned from purchasing farmland in the United States, and race and sex shall no longer be considered in loan and other programs. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Coming up, a Texas town mourns more than 100 lives lost in the last week's devastating floods. Plus, stories of survival emerge and questions grow about whether more could have been done to prevent the tragedy. How has the Chinese Communist Party expanded its influence in the U.S.? Congressman Michael McCaul weighs in on espionage, repression, and the CCP threats present on American soil. More in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
I was a quarterback at Hardaway High School, college first-round draft pick. On and off the field, we were taught to not show any signs of weakness. During the football season, I would stop eating. But I didn't know I was depressed. I thought that something was wrong with me. For 20 plus years was physical. We didn't have any education behind what mental health was. I started to learn it starts here first. If this is together, I'll be better as a father, as a man, and as a husband. Put the importance on your mental health. I'm not scared to talk about it anymore. The first tool is therapy. The second one is positive self-talk. And then journaling, putting your thoughts on paper. We have to redefine what being a strong man is and heal, love your mind.
That first time seeing my son, I feel like my life did a 180. I was already trying to change my perspective of life and really just be a father figure that I never had. Being present is the most important part. I'm still growing every day. becoming a better version of myself, to be the better mirror for my son. I mean, he's just grown. He's becoming his own person. Man, first I saw him dance, bro, he brings the vibes, you know what I'm saying? He brings the party no matter what. He really a definition of like why he loves somebody. And I love him to the death of me.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how sketch is me? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes, look at that. You turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you have to get it trending. Right, backpack kid?
Let's do it.
First, invite your kid to do the vape talk. Let's try this. All right.
Why is he here?
Yeah, I gotta get it trending, honey.
Come on.
To the left. To the right. Let's go.
Oh, honey, can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
I see a lot of your friends vaping.
Visit talkaboutVaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
A Texas community is coming together to mourn more than 100 lives lost in last week's catastrophic floods. Amid the growing wreckage and heartbreak, stories of survival, bravery, and hope are emerging. But questions remain about flood preparedness and warning systems.
In Kerrville, Texas, mourners gathered to remember those who lost their lives in last week's catastrophic flooding. A community fractured by grief but not broken. Among the wreckage and destruction rise stories of survival, bravery, and healing.
I have sympathy, of course, for all of the people here. It's a tragedy.
This is Charles Hansen. He's 91. He says he's lucky he and his wife survived, but so many lost everything.
The best thing I can do in respect for the people is to help clean up.
More than 100 people have lost their lives and at least 150 are still missing. Scores of people at Camp Mystic, which sits next to the Guadalupe River, had to be rescued by the U.S. Coast Guard.
I turn around and I give her a thumbs up and I look in her eyes and she looks back at me and she gives me a thumbs up back and musters a very scared but trying to be brave kind of smile.
27 campers and counselors died.
The hardest thing I've ever had to do was not only listening to a small child that shouldn't have to know the horrors of a tragedy as this, but to thank us for something they really don't understand.
Friday, President Donald Trump toured the damage in Kerrville. His visit comes amid serious concerns over flood preparedness and a lack of immediate alerts notifying residents about the floods.
You're not supposed to have 500-year events every single year.
Texas State House Minority Leader Gene Wu says the House will focus on pushing legislation that deals with flooding and resources.
How have the Chinese Communist Party's malign activities involved in the United States over the years? Congressman Michael McCaul has been on the forefront of investigating the CCP's influence right here on American soil. From espionage to transnational repression, NTD's Steve Lance has a chance to sit down with him. Here's a look.
Chairman Michael McCaul, thank you so much for sitting down.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's great to have you back. Chairman, your experience with the Chinese Communist Party dates back to 1996 when you prosecuted the Johnny Chung case. Talk to us about how this case shaped your understanding of the CCP influence right here in the United States.
Well, it was a real life experience early in my career. I was a federal prosecutor in the public integrity section, and we had the campaign finance task force to investigate whether money was coming from China to influence the presidential election, in this case, Bill Clinton. That put Johnny Chung on my radar. He was an operative who would take money from Chinese nationals and then he would get them into the White House to meet the President of the United States. Some of these people, very dangerous people, got into the White House next to the President, and then Johnny would make a contribution to the DNC, the Democrat National Committee. And so I was able to get him both on foreign contributions, but also tax evasion.
Some people might be surprised how far back the CCP's influence dates. Talk to us about the CCP's long game and what you think their ultimate goal might be.
Well, at that time, it was to influence elections through money directly in campaigns. And I think it's changed a little bit since that time. Now you have fronts like United Front is another, I think, PRC shell, if you will, that they funnel money through for lobbying practices against our interest and for the PRC's interest. But what was really profound about that case was after Johnny Chung pled guilty, he began to cooperate, and we had to verify all this, but he told this like amazing story about how he met the director of Chinese military intelligence and the executive vice president of China Aerospace, who basically, and they meet him in a basement with a big antenna, and they say, you know, we like your president, we like to see him get reelected, we'd like to put money into your Hong Kong bank account. And they put $360,000. The way I was able to prove that was the deposit slip was from Liu Xiaoying, signed by her as China Aerospace. Why China Aerospace? Why Director of Chinese Military Intelligence? They were trying to achieve, through the election of Bill Clinton, favorable policies towards the exports of dual-use technology in aerospace, that'd be rockets and satellites. And of course, the WTO is high on their priority to be part of the World Trade Organization. And guess what? They got all of that in 1997. But the case I prosecuted really blew it wide open into the conspiracy that was taking place on behalf of the PRC to influence our presidential election. You know, this United Front activity, you know, the whole espionage. Remember, we shut down the Houston consulate. They were burning documents off the rooftop. Fortunately, a shredding company, private, came to pick up the documents. That was actually the FBI. It was some of the best work I've seen come out of the Bureau. So I'm meeting with Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, and a former DOJ official. It was a one-on-one. And I asked him, why did you shut down the China task force? I said, it's not like espionage has disappeared. In fact, it's greater now than it was in 1997. It's far more sophisticated now. And he said, well, we're still looking at this issue. Unfortunately, you didn't see really any espionage indictments come out of the prior administration. The espionage is real and it's there, and we need to wake up to it.
There is a group that we're tracking right now that's under tremendous pressure. That's the Shenyun Performing Arts. It's a classical Chinese dance performance, China before communism. Many of your colleagues have watched the show and rave reviews about it. Senator Marshall, Congressman Brian Babin from Texas, and his wife. With that said, why do you think that the CCP is emboldened to go after, these are no longer Chinese nationals, they're American citizens of Chinese descent, many of them, but yet American citizens, they're threatening to bomb the theaters, they're slashing their tires in the buses when they ride off. There's all kinds of things. What has emboldened them to this point right now to do these things on American soil?
When you project weakness, this is what you get. You get aggression, you get conflict, and ultimately war. And we saw this take place in Ukraine after Afghanistan fell. We've seen it with Iran in the Middle East, and we're seeing it with China. They're very emboldened and empowered right now. They hate Falun Gong. They hate the people that talk about what was China like before, you know, the takeover of Chairman Mao and the Chinese Communist Party. Chairman Xi envisions himself as Chairman Mao, like a reincarnation of him. And he wants to restore what he thinks is rightfully his, and that is the imperial China. That includes, in his mind, Taiwan.
Talk to us about why the Chinese Communist Party sees these dissident groups as threats, and why outside of China they're still, you know, pressuring them.
Well, they're a threat because they have free speech here, but not in China. And in China, they as you know, they don't have First Amendment rights. They control the internet in China. They control the content of what's on the internet in China. So these groups, I think, threaten them. And you also see Americans of Chinese descent that they will go to and threaten their families back home, which I think is really horrific, not to mention what they have done to the Uyghur Muslim population in terms of forced labor camps, organ harvesting, which is one of the awful things where they literally put down 20-year-old males and take their organs out and then sell them on the black market. And they, in my judgment, under the communist regime, have no respect for life.
Congressman, you actually wrote a book some years back, and in your book, you highlight many of the threats that we've seen, unfortunately, come to fruition here in the United States. Talk to us a little bit about this and how you that these things even crossed your mind back then.
Well, this is in 2016. I wanted to document the threats that I saw facing the nation and write a book about it. So I had to do it in a way that didn't give the playbook away, but a fictional piece and then a could it really happen? Yes, factually, this is what's happened. And this was a tee up to the 2016 election. I was trying to influence policy, that we have these threats when we have to address these threats. Many from Al-Qaeda to ISIS to Russia on the Ukraine border, which we know what happened there, to cyber. But Chapter 4 was a piece on China. I have the Manchurian candidate, a man who rises to power to the presidency that's been compromised by China. In the book, on the factual side on that chapter, is the entire story about the Johnny Chung case.
I want to get your thoughts on publications like China Daily that we see circulated. That's a Chinese Communist Party sponsored English language paper in America, as well as these advertorials, basically advertisements taken out by Xinhua News, placed inside of publications like the New York Times, like the Washington Post, to look like they're editorial pieces. Any concern there?
Very much so. I don't think some of these publications know where it's coming from. Whether it's op-eds or various newspapers in the United States that are read widely by the Chinese population in the United States in an attempt to influence. And a few years back, when COVID broke out, I wrote the original, it was from the House Foreign Affairs Committee, report on the origins of COVID-19. It was very extensive, very well cited, basically pointing to the fact that it came out of a lab that was at a level 2 facility, inadequate to contain the virus, and it leaked out of the lab and then contaminated the process, the population in the Wuhan. From there, and we had great proof that this in fact did happen. The bat lady took bats from this cave, tried to make a super SARS-like virus with an eye towards a vaccine. But in the process, it leaked out, and we know what happened since that time. We published this report. We worked with the Voice of America to translate it into Mandarin, and then we got it through some interesting techniques on the internet in China. And they know how to shut down the internet, but we got this publication on the internet in Mandarin, and it went viral in China, exposing what the real situation, what happened, and how was COVID manufactured, that the Chinese did that and they leaked it. Of course, Chairman Xi did not like my report whatsoever, and I saw that we would see the foreign minister of China coming directly denouncing my report, denouncing me as well, and they devoted an entire television show that was almost kind of comical, calling out my report, calling me out personally, and how it was all a lie. This is how they operate. The deception is their game, and they're very good at it, and they've become very proficient at it since 1997. It's far a greater threat today than it was back then.
Chairman Michael McCall, really appreciate your insights.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, Ukrainian psychologist and TV personality Natalia Kodalenko shares her journey of fleeing war and seeking peace amid deep emotional scars. More than 100 lives lost in Texas' devastating floods. We speak with a nurse and author about how survivors can begin to heal in its aftermath. More in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
Divinely inspired traditional oil painting inspires compassion. Artwork created in truth and beauty illuminates a path to goodness. Rediscover traditional art, revive classical culture. We warmly invite oil painters from around the world to participate in the 7th NTD International Figure Painting Competition, a celebration of classical realism. Please visit oilpainting.ntdtv.com.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. You may know me from my many years on television. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I felt this slight pressure on my chest, just slight. I thought, oh, it's nothing, it'll go away. I didn't get it. I did not get it. A few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. It felt like an elephant pressing on my chest. I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I was rushed into surgery where I received 2 stents in my arteries. Stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. I can enjoy life with my children, my grandchildren, and my friends. Heart disease is America's #1 killer. And your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did. So please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now. Join me as a monthly donor today and help save even more lives. Thank you.
There's always a searching process for beauty. You know it when you see it.
As Russia intensifies its war in Ukraine, millions of Ukrainian refugees across Europe continue to live with deep emotional scars and ongoing uncertainty. More than 6 million people have fled Ukraine since the invasion began, according to the UN. Natalia Kolodenko is one of those people. A household name in Ukraine, Natalia is a psychologist and beloved television personality. Once thriving in Ukraine, she lost everything overnight and was forced to flee with her children. Natalia, welcome to our show. It's wonderful to have you here. How are you doing these days?
Thank you. Sorry.
How are you doing these days?
Oh, I'm okay. Thank you.
That's great to hear. Natalia, you once had a thriving life in Kyiv before everything changed overnight. Can you briefly share what was the biggest challenge you and your family experienced as you left Ukraine?
Yes, in one night I understood that my windows is shaken, and I understood that it's a bombed attic and we need quickly go out. I worked on TV 12 years in Ukraine in the most important channel. I was so popular. I had a lot events with red carpet, and in one moment I understood that my life changed for now for all for all my friends and for me too. My life is changed, and it was big shock for me. Because we were sure that it's impossible. It's never happened.
I see. So from your perspective, what are some of the less visible psychological wounds that refugees, especially children, carry long after the war?
Yeah, you know, a lot of people, they go out from country with children, and it was women usual, and they was very disoriented. They can't understand how live in another country, because some people from village, for example, they never went to another countries. And for them, it was very, very hard step. And they ask all the time what we can do, how we can walk. We don't know any languages. And for me, first time, it was most important to support mothers that they don't come back with children to very dangerous region of Ukraine, because a lot women come back with children's, because they can't live without husband, and they can live in another country. And they came back to very dangerous region with children. And for me, it was very important to support them. And a lot of them stay in a safe place.
So you've spoken about resilience. What small but powerful strategies have you seen women and families use? So like, what strategies have you seen women and families use to stay emotionally grounded through the chaos of a war?
Yes, thank you for your question. You know, for me, I was sure that people will ask me about some exercises, how live in this situation. But for people was most important how they can imagine their future, how they can believe this life, believe this world, believe in other people. And I was shocked, because I was sure that everybody will ask how my feelings, how I can live with it, with these very bad feelings when you lost friends, when you lost work, when you lost on all your environments, all your life. But people ask about future, and I understood that future more important than trauma, you know, because if you find something good in your future, you can live in this situation, in this bad situation. But if you can find something good in your future, you disoriented. And for me, it was something new.
See, so find hope within the chaos. Natalia, thank you so much for being with us and sharing your powerful story. Your experience and expertise means a lot. We're truly grateful for your time.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Have a great one. More than 100 people have died in the devastating floods across Texas, with Kerr County hit especially hard. To help those coping with the aftermath of the tragedy, NTD speaks with Holly Swinson, a registered nurse and author of Stop, Drop, Grow, and Glow.
What is the path to healing in a situation like this, especially when so many young lives were lost or are currently at risk?
Yes, hi, Kevin. You know, this has been such a devastating flood for so many people, and natural disasters like this really do have that profound impact on, you know, families, individuals, and entire communities. And because of this, I think, you know, the coping with the trauma and the aftermath requires a multifaceted approach. And so when you're talking about parents who are living in impacted areas, you really want to ensure the safety and basic needs are being met. So the essentials like food, water, and shelter. You want to also really encourage open communication. And so being open for your children to come to you with any questions and concerns that they're experiencing, and keeping those lines of communication wide open and really meeting them where they are versus where you think they, versus, you know, expecting to know what you know.
Right, and communication is so important. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that, Holly, with how many questions they may have and how parents can immediately respond to that?
Sure. You know, the important piece here is to reassure safety and security, and you want to keep things age appropriate. So for our younger children, you know, if you can shield them from some of this it might be wise to do so. But you just want to avoid overwhelming details. And again, meet them where they are and be that line of communication and that support system to validate their emotions, acknowledge that fear and sadness and anger are normal responses to tragedies like what we're seeing. And also just, you can use phrases like it's okay to feel scared and help children understand their emotions are valid.
Yes, that's very important. Now, what immediate actions can parents, counselors, or first responders take to do their best to help those who are grappling with this and may have lost friends or loved ones?
Well, I think when we're looking at the community, I think you want to foster that sense of hope and belonging. I think, having activities where people are coming together to sharing experiences and providing that mutual support. It really should be this time of coming together and finding healing for those people who are directly impacted. You want to also, at some point maybe consider the volunteer efforts, helping with cleanup and rebuilding and offering, that sense of purpose and collective action, which can be very healing. And then you also want to be aware of the mental health toll that this might be taking on people. And so there's a really terrific health resource. This is called the Disaster Distress Helpline, and that's a 24/7 hotline that people can access if they are really struggling to wrap their brain around what's happening.
Yes, absolutely. And it takes a community effort, a countrywide effort, resources going to this area to help, search and rescue teams out there. What about volunteers? What specifics can they do to help alleviate some of the pain from this tragic incident?
Well, I think what's been challenging is that, especially this week, it still hasn't been safe for a lot of people to come in and offer support yet. But that seems to be starting to lift, especially as we head into this next weekend. But I think, really leaning on local authorities to see how you can help. You might even consider reaching out to the Salvation Army. They might be starting to organize different volunteer opportunities for people who want to step in and help provide that support. And it can be an individual mission. You might consider, having it be a family mission to help those who are really suffering in this hour of need.
Right. And of course, finding all missing persons, including the children, is the immediate priority. And that said, what's the next step for the people of Central Texas as they move forward from this extremely difficult situation?
Yeah, I think it's really understandable to wonder how healing is going to be possible moving forward, especially when so many children have been lost. It really, I think, is going to be an element of it's going to take time to soften some of those emotions. But it's really important to recognize that emotional healing after such a traumatic event is really that active process. And so it's going to require that intentional effort of really trying to engage in processing the emotions associated with the loss and trauma rather than avoiding them, seeking support as needed. Practicing self-care is also really important. So making sure that you're getting adequate sleep, you're still exercising and finding routine amidst the chaos.
And Holly, how can parents let children know that it's okay to ask questions or it's okay to wonder what's happening right now?
Yeah, and it's not always easy to find words to comfort, children necessarily in times of this immense, loss. But I think for children who have lost a friend or sibling, especially if it's being shown on the news, that it's really important to offer honest, age-appropriate explanations of comfort and support. So you want to be empathetic. You want to validate and acknowledge their feelings. It can be something as simple as "I'm sorry for your loss," and also encouraging them to express their emotions and provide that safe space for them to do so. And I think it's also really healthy to normalize their grief. And so letting them know that it's okay to feel angry and confused at this time, and that adults feel those things as well, depending on what's going on in life.
Yes, and at NTD, our hearts go out to the families of those who've lost loved ones and who are still waiting to find those who are missing.
Matcha, a drink made from powdered green tea, is growing in popularity worldwide. How is this impacting the matcha supply chain? We speak with Yale Nerva Tea House in New York.
Discover the ancient secret to vitality and longevity with Puretane Black Ginseng. Crafted from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng, each root is carefully nurtured for over 2,260 days, undergoing a traditional 9-round handcrafted process of steaming and drying to unlock full potency and absorption. Experience pure, natural energy with Puretang Black Ginseng. Order now at puretang.com.
With almost 4 decades in the spotlight, Cindy Crawford has never lost her stunning glow. With her gorgeous, age-defying skin, US Weekly says, whatever she's doing, it's clearly working. How does her skin still look firm, smooth, and youthful at 59? It's meaningful beauty. And now, with new advanced formulas, it's better than ever, delivering our age-defying ingredients even deeper into the skin to fight wrinkles where they begin. Just wait until you see the difference meaningful beauty can make for you.
Instant hydration, instant plumping. My skin looks amazing.
What I'm most proud of is over 5 million women have trusted Meaningful Beauty, and they're getting great results. And I get that feedback from them in airports, supermarkets, walking down the street, and I love it.
And today, we are celebrating 20 years of meaningful beauty with a brand new offer you don't want to miss. You can get the entire advanced Meaningful Beauty system with all 5 age-defying super treatments. And when you order today, you'll receive our Targeted Treatment Duo, a $128 value free. Introducing the Wrinkle Smoothing Capsules to target crow's feet, forehead lines, and lines around your mouth. Plus, you'll also get the new Skin Renewing Facial Tool with heat, massage, and red light to boost the absorption of the wrinkle smoothing capsules and reduce the appearance of puffiness. The Skin Renewing Facial Tool and the Wrinkle Smoothing Capsules together create Meaningful Beauty's amazing targeted treatment duo.
This plus this equals incredible results.
Get all this, a $300 value for just $49.95. But you must act quickly. Results guaranteed or your money back.
If you haven't tried Meaningful Beauty yet, this new offer is something you don't want to miss.
This special offer is not available in any store, so don't wait. Scan the code, call the number below, or go to meaningfulbeauty.com right now.
Hi, I'm Ty Pennington, here for Choice Home Warranty. They protect my home from expensive repairs, and they can do the same for you. For a low monthly fee, you get their nationwide network of trusted local technicians with plans that cover repairs and replacements done quickly and the right way. Call Choice Home Warranty now and save big with their special offer of your first month free and free limited roof coverage. Call now.
Call now to lock in your rate and save big. Call 800-360-7824.
Matcha, a drink made from powdered green tea, is increasing in popularity worldwide. What does that mean for the farmers who grow it, the sellers who supply it, and the customers who love it? NTD brings in a New York tea house owner to get the full picture. Take a look.
We're very excited to be going to Japan via our studio here in New York City.
Yes,
and we're going to learn about matcha,
ourselves.
Right?
We're actually going to learn from someone who knows a lot more about matcha than we do. Sylvia Mella, she has a tea house down in Soho. What are you going to show us today, Sylvia?
So we're going to make a traditional matcha as we do in tea ceremony, so just matcha and water.
Oh, that's fantastic. I can't wait. And matcha seems to be everywhere, from trendy, top-notch cafes to health food stores and online retail.
It sure does. And actually, today in the U.S. alone, demand for the powdered green tea is expected to grow.
Yeah, how is that impacting prices and the people who produce the product? Let's have a look.
The powdered green tea called matcha, making its way into the hearts and homes of millions of people around the world. Driven by viral social media trends and the surging demand for functional, antioxidant-rich products worldwide, the pressure to produce and sell high-quality matcha increases. In bustling downtown New York, an enigmatic little tea house offers handcrafted ceremonial-grade elixirs. Sorate founder Sylvia Mella says despite the high demand, matcha farmers and merchants alike must bend to the laws of nature.
The farmer can only produce as much as the demand is asking, and even for next year, the matcha won't be more than what it was this year, but definitely will be more expensive because of the demand.
Production of the high-quality tea so in demand involves traditional stone mill grinding, delicate processing, and strict quality control.
The farmers have to shade the plant manually. The grounding of the leaves is for high quality matcha is done with stones, and this it takes 1 hour to make 30 grams of matcha.
She says While international tea houses face pressure to dilute or reduce the quality of their products, it's the quality that people come for.
You can pause for 3 minutes even here or at your home when you make your own matcha. That can help you relax and go through the day better. So it's a sort of meditation, but more like practical.
Regulars agree it offers a moment of pause, a pause that's worth paying for. For others, it's a worthwhile occasional treat.
If it's not something I'm getting super often, it's okay if it's slightly more expensive. If it's something it's, once in a while. So I'm not too concerned about that personally.
Locals float in and out, not just for the tea, but for the rituals that surround the preparation and serving. The process, traditionally meant to infuse the mind with harmony, purity, tranquility. Buddhist monks are said to have brought matcha to Japan from China in the 12th century. It's been a cultural treasure for the little island nation ever since. The highest grade, achieving medicinal qualities, is featured in weddings, funerals, and other significant events. Around the world, the specially grown and processed tea leaves are becoming recognized for the benefits they bring to boost the brain and body.
I grew up drinking matcha, and I grew up visiting Japan quite often, so it's interesting to see a lot of different demographics and their interest in matcha spike over time and the level of knowledge they have for matcha.
A gift to a modern world seeking reprieve, calling us back to step inside the wisdom that has kept this tradition going through the ages.
What a great visit down to Soho, Steph.
Yes.
Did you lose my number that morning when you went to visit Sylvia?
I'm sorry, but we can make matcha now. Sylvia, tell us how to get started.
Yeah, this is beautiful.
Thank you. So all we need is this is called chawan in Japanese.
Chawan.
It's a matcha ball. And this is called chashaku, which is the matcha spoon, and the chazen, which is the matcha whisk. So these are the main items.
What is it called again?
Chazen.
Chazen. It's beautiful.
So we open our little tea caddy.
All right.
And we scoop out 2 full scoop of matcha.
2 scoops.
Yeah, 2 full.
2 full scoops. All right. Would you say heaping? There we go.
Looks good.
Voila.
All right.
Beautiful.
Those scoops. Oh, it's very delicate.
Yeah, it is.
And the smell is quite strong.
It's quite
beautiful.
strong, right?
The scent.
Yeah, very potent.
This is already been sieved, but usually before you make matcha, you should sieve this, so it's like ground fine powder.
Okay.
But this is already been sieved, so we don't have to do that.
We don't have to do it, but wow, that looks like a fun step.
Yes.
So delicate, so beautiful.
And then you put about 70 ml of water.
Okay.
So for every 2 grams of matcha, there is 70 ml of water. That's like the traditional ratio.
Can you do the honors for me?
Sure.
Just so I don't blow it? And you're kind of going in a circular motion. What's the purpose for
I'm
that?
just trying to get all the powder that is on the side of the bowl. Yeah.
Fantastic. Here you go, Steph.
And then with a motion of like a M or W, you hold the cup on the left side and you mix it like this.
Okay, and why the M or W motion? What's going on with that?
This makes the froth working better, and you really get all the powder.
Oh, yeah. So don't go around the edges. Go.
Yeah, you can do a little circle to get all the powder that is on the side of the bowl. But then keep going on M or W motion and until you see like a little foam on top. And that's it.
So traditional matcha always has a layer of foam.
Yes.
Oh, fascinating. And what's the purpose of that?
There is 2 kinds of tea ceremonies of schools. One is omotesenke, one is urasenke. The urasenke does a lot of foam, so you see the effort that is being made to make the tea.
Yeah.
So the foam is kind of like the quality of how you whisked it. Instead of omotesenke school, you don't see the foam much, but you see the green that is inside, like the dark green that is below the foam.
Okay.
I got to trouble you to do a whisk on mine because I'm looking at yours and I'm looking at mine, and your bubbles are far greater than my bubbles. But and in this modern technology world, do you still prefer to do it by hand, the old-fashioned way?
Yes, I think it's the only way to do it that is actually as good results.
Okay.
There is like electric frothers, which you can see the bubbles are different when you use like electric.
Yeah.
So I think the traditional way is better. It's also like a sort of meditation, a ritual to do.
A meditation you find when you make
so
it.
it's not just a beverage, but it's like a lifestyle.
Ah.
Wow. And how is there? I mean, we spent so much time delicately preparing this. Is there a way to drink it particularly?
Yes. So you place the tea ball on the left hand.
Okay.
And you hold it with the right hand on the side, and then you can like drink it.
All right, cheers. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for teaching us how to make it. Wow, it's got a little bit of a bitter taste on the front end, but it's quite smooth on the back end.
Yes, that's it's supposed to be like this. Yeah.
Yeah, and for people who may be a little bit unaccustomed to the flavor, are there ways that they can modify it to make it a little more?
Sure. This is like the traditional way, so it's like 3 calories only, so it's like also the healthier way. But in our cafe, a lot of people ask for milk and sweetener or ice, so you can also put some ice cube inside the bowl, or drop it on a glass of milk. Yeah.
Now compare it to coffee for us. How is it different from coffee?
Well, the caffeine is almost similar, but matcha has also L-theanine, which is a relaxant. So you're awake, but you're never agitated like coffee. That's why Buddhist monks, they drink matcha before meditating for hours, so they can be awake but never like crazy.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Even for the regular workday, but also people drink this for the health benefits. What?
Well, it's it's the number 1 antioxidant, the natural antioxidant. So renews the cells from inside and outside. It's also an anti-inflammatory. So if you can put it on your skin if you're like a little bruise, or like if you had too much sun since it's summer, you can put a little matcha to like cool you off.
Yeah, lovely. That sounds very versatile, and you can see it's so fresh, so bright and vibrant, and I'm feeling pretty good after drinking it. So, yeah, thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Really, really appreciate you showing us this, and I'll be getting some more, and I think I'll be drinking a lot more matcha now. So
come back to the store anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It was a beautiful, experience.
Thank you.
There.
From drones and hot air balloons to the International Space Station, photographers are capturing stunning aerial views that reveal the beauty and sometimes the drama of our planet. We take a look at the finalists and the winners of the new International Aerial Photography of the Year competition.
Take a look at the best from a brand new photography competition aimed at highlighting talented and artistic eyes in the skies. These are some of the finalist images from the inaugural International Aerial Photographer of the Year competition. In its first year, the contest saw more than 1,500 submissions from fearless photogs all around the world who took to the skies via planes, drones, hot air balloons, and more in an effort to cast light on the breadth, beauty, and sometimes brutality of the natural world. Highlights include this twisting tree of ice pattern forming in the waters of Greenland, a beautiful byproduct of a calving glacier, and this haunting look at an active Icelandic volcano, from which cracks in lava formed a surreal smoking skull of sorts. The top honors for the inaugural Aerial Photographer of the Year went to New Yorker Joanna Steidel for her collection of stunning shots of marine life, all captured within a mere 10 miles of her Long Island home. It just goes to show you don't necessarily have to go far to capture breathtaking bird's-eye views of the world. You just have to go up. More winners and finalist submissions can be viewed in the ebook on internationalaerialphotographer.com. Well, not to be outdone, one shutterbug who was flying higher than any of the aforementioned photogs captured an incredible shot from her perch on the International Space Station. Astronaut Nicole Ayers nabbed this incredible view of a weather phenomenon called a sprite, an event triggered by intense electrical activity that happens above the clouds of active thunderstorms. Captured above the U.S. and Mexico, the luminous natural event is seen literally outshining the artificial light of surrounding cities.
Natural disasters can strike fast, but getting your finances in order doesn't have to wait. A few simple steps can save you major stress later on.
Natural disasters can strike quickly, but experts say preparing a checklist of financial safeguards can happen right now.
Don't look at it as something that you create if something happens.
Create it so that way you know when something happens, you're prepared.
Rulon Washington of Wells Fargo Home Mortgage has navigated multiple hurricane seasons in Florida. He says households can protectively map out plans for worst-case scenarios.
It's okay to call your mortgage company. It's okay to call your insurance company and inquire. Don't be afraid because they are your financial partner.
Kate Bolger of consumer credit counseling nonprofit Money Management International says households should regularly review insurance coverage for regionally specific things like floods and wildfires.
The last thing you want is to have a disaster happen and then get surprised when your coverage isn't what you thought it was.
After a disaster, Bolger says communication with lenders and creditors remains key.
Calling your creditors right away, letting them know you've been in a disaster, that lets them give you some grace, give you some flexibility in payments so that you can kind of get through that critical first period.
And even in a disaster's chaotic aftermath, Washington says to remain vigilant against bad actors.
The awareness and being vigilant around any scams or scammers looking to take advantage of your situation should be something to add to that preparation as you're guiding your family through a natural disaster.
Your body doesn't take a break from needing exercise, even in the summer heat. A family physician says staying active safely means being smart about when and how you work out, especially with high heat temperatures and humidity.
Your body's need for exercise doesn't take a summer break.
I tell my patients, keep active, make sure you're exercising, doing your cardio 30 minutes a day, with cardio-aerobic activity, putting in some weight resistance training on top of that during the week.
Dr. Jesse Bracamonte with Mayo Clinic says that while staying active year-round is important, exercising in the heat can put you in harm's way if you're not careful. He says you have to be mindful of the heat, humidity, and dryness.
Just be intentional and be careful out in the summer months, particularly if you're not used to these summer months or the high humidity or the heat waves that come along.
If your exercise routine takes you outdoors, Bracamonte says to go out when the sun's not as strong, early in the morning or in the evening when it's cooler. And hydration is key. Before exercise, he recommends drinking at least 20 to 30 ounces of water to get the body started in hydration. And during exercise, rehydrating every 15 to 20 minutes to keep the body from depleting itself. And after being active, continue that hydration.
You want your urine to look like clear lemonade. That's a sign of hydration rather than dark apple juice color.
Bracamonte says to also wear appropriate clothing. He recommends loose, light material. And if you do exercise outdoors, find a place that has shade if possible.
Staying cool is really key.
Good 3. That's all for today's news. Thank you for tuning in. Stay with us for more NTD Evening News at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific.